So on the ACC specifically, I sent you an article and want to talk about this. Is the ACC the most boring, least exciting league in the Power Four?
Not when Clemson and Florida State are good, but sorry, TJ, Florida State wasn't good. They were 2-10.
I sent the article, so I won't. You don't have to say sorry. I'm the one that invited this.
My bad. But that's where these sit, and that's where the ACC sits, and that's where these two schools sit. Are if you're not good, if your two big dogs aren't good, what do you have to hang your hat on? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to play the card of this highfalutin, crazy person who thinks the Big 12 is the best conference in all of college athletics. We were just there. We were just in a spot where Texas and Oklahoma did not want to be in our league. And when that was the case and when they left, you looked at the Big 12 and you said, this is pretty boring because, man, Texas isn't very good. And the second that Texas got good, Oklahoma's not very good. And there's not much to hang your hat on. They're both leaving. And now what? Luckily for this conference, the teams you backfilled with, like Utah or BYU or Deion Sanders in Colorado, have given you a ton of exposure. For the ACC, the teams you backfilled with, Cal, Stanford, and an SMU team that made the college football playoff, and collectively America looked around and said, we don't care. It didn't matter. You're going to say, who name the schools that were in the very first college football playoff that was expanded to 12 teams. And most Americans, most college football fans will probably leave SMU off that list. They'll forget. This is forgettable. And it was so funky and silly and stupid that the SMU team that was your best squad all year long actually lost to Clemson, who seemed to be so down and had just lost to South Carolina. And now that Clemson team sneaks its way into the college football playoff as well, and they don't even get a bye, Boise State does instead. All of that put together is just a bad look for the ACC. And if you're going to put 1 through 4, these power conferences ranked in football, you're going to put the ACC at 4. If you ask Massey ratings over the last 6 years, 4 of those years, the Big 12 has been the second best analytical conference in football, right behind the SEC. And a big piece of that is their parity and their maximum competition. Last year, basketball, football, both, we just didn't see ranked matchups in the ACC. We didn't ever get the opportunity to go, wow, I can't wait to watch number 15 play number 17, or number 15 play number 8, or number 8 play number 9. There was none of that in the conference because you have a surplus of Virginias. You have a surplus of Mississippi States, a surplus of Cincinnati's. Every conference has that school. The ACC just has a lot of them. Even the middle of the pack, NC State, or Wake Forest, or Boston College, who wasn't bad. No one is talking about those schools. No one will watch those schools. And do I think that's an overall problem in college football and that people should give more exposure to the middleman? Of course. However, in the ACC, they can't find a way to market it. And outside of 3 teams, genuinely, last year, outside of Clemson, 2? Clemson and Miami? As SMU's kind of there, but again, no one was watching. Like, if a tree falls in the woods, if SMU goes to the college football playoff and no one's watching, did it really happen? And I hate that for SMU fans, but again, I just think the ACC is so overlooked right now.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of it does have to do with Florida State. I can say that. But it's not just FSU. You think about, how the ACC went last year. And I can't remember if I've talked with you about it specifically, so I don't mean to go back to the same point again. But if FSU takes care of their business, we've got a ranked matchup, probably an undefeated matchup of 2 teams when Florida State and Miami play each other. And that'd have been great for the ACC, right? But Florida State didn't take care of their business and obviously did way worse than just not taking care of their business. You think about Miami being a top 6 team and losing 2 of their last 3 games. And that being awful for the ACC. Now, as a Florida State guy, I love that, sure. But objectively for the ACC, terrible. NC State, is Doran finally on the hot seat? Like, I think about them. They're a team. Nobody wants to go to Raleigh and play. Like, ask Florida State fans, one place you don't want to have to go play in league, and they'll tell you, we don't want to go to Raleigh, North Carolina. It's not Clemson. It's not the Swamp. It's not down to Miami. It's not to Notre Dame, right, for those games. It is Raleigh, North Carolina. But they can't take care of what they got going on. UNC recruits at a top 25 level over and over. And I know there's excitement around UNC with Belichick right now, and that certainly will help some of the intrigue or appeal with them for sure. But I think that if if the ACC teams that are supposed to would take care of business, again, Clemson blowing a lead late to South Carolina and taking all the wind out of their sails late in the season and having to backdoor their way into a playoff spot by beating SMU. I think that all of those things contributed to it too. That said, even if all of those things would have happened, right? And your Florida State and your Miami and Clemson all took care of business. NC State was a solid 8-4, 9-3 type team. Either your Virginia or your Virginia Tech step up and kind of do what they need to do, where one of them is competitive and playing well. Even if all of that was the case, the bottom of the league is still just so terrible. Yeah, right. And I hate to dunk on these teams. I'm not trying to be a jerk.
Can I kind of pause you and adjust just a tad bit? It's not just the bottom of the league. It's like it's the back half.
Yeah. Oh, like for sure.
The bottom of the Big 12 is terrible. The bottom of the SEC is terrible. The Big 10. It's just the entire half of the ACC looks kind of terrible right now.
Yep. You think about. I mean, there are, like you just said, there are those teams for the Big 12 too. Like I don't think I watched any Cincinnati games last year. Not to dunk on them. I watched a couple of UCF games because they're kind of close to me. But there are some teams in the Big 12 that like don't have great appeal, and we can sure. Outside of Vandy's magical 7-6 year, I mean, I didn't watch any Vandy games for the last few years either, right? Like that. Yeah, how many times are you tuned in and watching Rutgers play, or a lot of these teams? So that the ACC is not exclusive in that. But when you think about like BC, Wake. Syracuse actually did have a good year there. How many people watched? I don't know. Pitt, okay. Virginia's an absolute dumpster fire. Virginia Tech's a dumpster fire. Georgia Tech, they had some fun games. A lot of people watched because they played Florida State and Georgia on standalone days where nobody else was playing. Duke football, UNC, NC State being kind of a mess. It is really like most of the league, Thank God Louisville, I guess, held it down a little bit for the league. But even that, I think they finished with 3 or 4 losses. So, it's just tough because so much of the league is just so trash. And I'm not, that's a lot of Florida State and Clemson's complaint is we are propping up a bad league. And Florida State didn't come out and do very well defending that, accusation by being crap themselves. But I do think that's, you look at the Holy War late in the year last year. Utah was out of everything. You look at the way that so many teams had a chance down the stretch in the Big 12, whether it's Iowa State or Arizona State or Colorado or BYU. There was a scenario where Baylor could have gotten in the Big 12 championship. And then you look at what Texas Tech is doing and all the excitement around that. And, I'm just rattling off teams here at this point. I mean, shoot, even some of the bad teams. There's some intrigue around UCF to see what Frost does. There's some intrigue around West Virginia to see what happens with Rich Rod coming back. And, is Oklahoma State going to turn it around? They've always been a team that people wanted to watch. Remember that Oklahoma State-Arkansas game early in the year? I mean, everybody was watching that, and that was a phenomenal game. And so, I just top to bottom. I mean, if there's a ranked ACC matchup, which doesn't happen a ton. Yeah, if Clemson Miami's on or Clemson Florida State or Florida State Miami, that's going to win in the ratings. Outside of like the massive matchups, I'm not tuning in for Wake Forest versus Duke.
No.
I'm not tuning in for Georgia Tech versus Pitt. Yeah, I'm just not. And so that's where I think the ACC falls behind. Do they have the star power? Absolutely. They absolutely do. And anybody who wants to deny the top heaviness of the league is crazy to me. But I'm not watching ACC football. I watch it because I watch everything and standing implications, things like that. But if there's a good Big 12 game on and a middle of the road Big 12 game versus a middle of the road ACC game, I don't think the ACC is very exciting outside of just a couple of teams.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I don't want to dunk on them, but that's why I don't foresee them being in a very good spot in the overall state of where college football is already in a bad spot.
Yeah. I think a lot of it had to do, one last point, and we'll move on from this. A lot of it had to do with, and why we're in that situation, Florida State and Clemson, Miami, other programs too, not just those three, but they heavily invested into athletics and into football specifically.
Correct.
And the results showed for that. Not last year for Florida State, but the results have typically shown over the last 30 years for that. Yep. A lot of these programs didn't. A lot of the programs in the ACC refused to invest, and that is why we're in the situation that we're in. There's no reason that a Virginia Tech up in the DMV should not be a great team. There's no reason at all. There's no reason that Virginia, the flagship university of that state, should not be a good team. There's no reason that UNC and NC State should not be really good teams, right? So that's all I have to say about the ACC. Get me out of here yesterday.